Alex going first, has the EV start along with Xander, and we see he has energy in hand too, so he can energy evolution if he wants to. It's so powerful getting a GX Pokemon in play turn 1 thanks to energy evolution.
Yeah, we're also going to see another GX Pokemon hit the board in Tapu Lele, which is a pretty common play that we've seen out of the Garbodor decks through this tournament is turn 1, Ultra Ball, find a Tapu Lele, Wonder Tag for Bridget, and then kind of fill your bench with Trubbishes and Eevees. So I expect that's the play that we're going to see, although it looks like Alex...
He was eyeing that Hex Maniac for a little.
Yeah, he's looking through his deck just trying to see what's prized and what's not, considering the Hex Maniac. He did pull a Bridget to the front. It's kind of just the play that we've seen time and time again in these matches, where you just have to kind of have a lot of Pokemon on the board. It's not like you're not really a setup deck so much. You do just have stage 1s, but you just want to have a lot of copies of all the Pokemon.
And there we see the classic Bridget in this format. 3 Pokemon, 2 Trubbish, and another Eevee. Energy Evolution, getting the Espeon GX. And this is kind of what Alex is hoping for this first turn.
Yeah, I mean, we've basically just seen this kind of standard Garbodor deck start, which is the Bridget, the Energy Evolution. You have your bench full of the your Trubbishes and your Eevees just getting ready to evolve, and then you have the Espeon in the active. Pretty standard start. Didn't quite see what was in the rest of Alex's hand, but he's definitely happy with this turn 1.
All right, his hand's actually really good. It's another Energy, an Espeon, and an N. So he's able to recharge next turn. And Xander has a Tapu Lele of his own. One thing to note is he didn't have to Ultra Ball for it. And item count is very big in this mirror match.
Yeah, the mirror match is pretty focused around Garbodor, just because Espeon is weak to Garbodor, so Espeon can be a good attacker in the early game. It's a very powerful card, obviously, but it comes down to these stage 1 non-EX, GX attackers in Garbodor, and you need just 3 items in the discard pile to knock out a Garbodor with a Trash Avalanche, so it's kind of once you get to that threshold, you don't really worry about it anymore, but you want to keep that off for as long as possible.
Yeah, and from what we said before, their teammates, their testing partners, this is, I think, a perfect 60-card mirror match. So it's really who gets luckier, who knows the matchup better.
Right, and we do see both players kind of go for the same play. The Tapu Lele into Bridget. Xander's just going to take a look through his deck and see what's prized, but it does look like he is getting 2 Trubbish and an Eevee, just as Alex did.
Yeah, it's very possible that we could see the exact same plays from both players. Even the energy on the Eevee, Energy Evolution, and into the attack. But Xander gets to attack first.
Yeah, Xander is going second, so he will actually be able to use his Espeon efficiently. And yeah, we do see the attachment, Energy Evolution, and now there's that Espeon. 2, the same exact board state on either side of the table for Xander and Alex.
I know Alex has those old Professor energies, though. I'm kind of fond of those.
Sure.
All right, and we will see a Psybeam. Let's see if he has maybe a Choice Band to increase his damage output. Does not look like it, but still 60 damage turn 1 and Confusion.
If there is a Psybeam, that Espeon is confused. We've seen Confusion play a pretty big role. One of the kind of more subtly powerful things about the Espeon GX. Confusion, traditionally not one of the better status conditions, but just can put a lot of Pokemon in this format in a really awkward position. We saw a lot of players use it to great length versus Decidueye GX. It's a big game there.
Yeah, and he chooses not to get the Espeon from the deck because he already had it in hand. And then he played the N. Both players get a brand new hand of 6 cards.
Yeah, and looking through the list, something different that we have seen from a couple of the lists we featured earlier, that they are running 3 Espeon GX, which isn't, an innovation or anything. It's not all that different, but a lot of lists I've seen do just run 2. So Alex does have access to that third one. He could have searched it out of his deck.
Exactly, and it's unfortunate for Alex because Divide is a very strong attack, but with the way his hands panned out with the Espeon GX being confused, he really couldn't go for it profitably.
Yeah, the Confusion, certainly a risk there. So he's going to go attach a Float Stone, which will allow him to retreat.
All right, Float Stone retreating. And then we will for sure see a Psybeam. I don't see a Choice Band, so again, it's just for 60, but this damage builds up, especially when Garbodor starts being a factor.
Yeah, definitely. Like we said, Espeon being weak to Garbodor is a huge factor, and
Speaking of Garbodor, there's 2 in Xander's hand.
another Espeon.
Man, this is exactly what he wants. The float stone also and the N.
Yeah, so Alex actually, he went first and had the same exact board set up as Xander for a while, but you see that on Xander's second turn, he is advancing his board state way more than Alex did. 2 Garbodors on the board. Both players have a second Espeon GX. Xander even has a third Trubbish on the board as well, so Xander, depends on what we're going to see off of this end, but Xander is definitely in a stronger position than Alex here.
Yeah, first and foremost, I think he just needs energy. Energy is one of the big things in mirror matches, of course, where you need to keep doing these trades of attacks.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
unfortunately for him, he did not hit a Psychic, but he does have a double colorless. Maybe Tapu Lele might come into the fray of things.
Yeah, Xander's going to take a minute to consider where to attach. They're not too useful on Garbodor, although he is going to attach it. We have seen some Acid Sprays.
I mean, Acid Spray is a great attack.
3 Acid Sprays
Yeah.
on stream, actually.
Multiple from Trubbish, a few from Garbodor, and with a Choice Band, Acid Spray actually knocks out Espeon GX in 1 hit.
Correct, and now we see another.
We see
Psybeam.
the second Confusion flip on stream, and it's a heads again.
Who would have
So,
thought?
All right, now we have to see what Alex can do in return.
So I don't know the item count in either player's discard pile. I know that.
I believe it's 1 and 0.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I know that Alex at least played an Ultra Ball. I didn't think Xander had played any. Both players do have items on the board, though, so a Field Blower could be big. Both players do run 2 copies of that card.
All right, and another N comes down with the double colorless going onto the Tapu Lele. It's almost, I think it's the only thing without Psychic weakness in this matchup, right?
I think so, yeah. Both players do actually run a copy of Flareon, which is not going to come into. Well,
Yeah,
it's
I
not
don't
going
think you
to
can
matter,
attack with Flareon at all.
But all right, so both players getting reset back to 6 cards. We're seeing an exact 60 card mirror match. It's really interesting. We actually don't see too many of those on stream, even from similar, testing teams or whatever.
Usually you have like, well, I like this card.
Yeah,
he likes that
one
card.
or 2 card, preferences. So seeing the exact 60 mirror is pretty interesting.
It shows you how much they tested and refined their list. They believe they have the perfect 60 cards for this tournament, and they're both 3-0-1. They're sitting right on top.
Yeah, great records as we see Alex retreat and go for an energy drive with Tapu Lele GX, just kind of saying, I've committed the energy here. This is not a Pokemon that I'm, really focused on attacking with, so I'm just going to put some pressure on you, and if you knock me out, it's just my Tapu Lele. It's not one of my bigger, more important attackers.
All right, and we see an energy on the second Espeon GX on Xander's bench. He retreats to it, and we'll see another Psybeam.
And we've seen just these Espeon GXs in the early game just go kind of back and forth and find float stones and retreat, which is usually how it works. And then later in the game, we'll start to see those Garbodors come into action.
And you don't want to be the first one to commit that double colorless to an Espeon to try and Psychic or Divide, just because it will for sure most likely get knocked out by your opposing Espeon GX.
Yeah, as we see again, retreating the Tapu Lele, Alex promotes the Espeon, and now he is just going to attack with Espeon again. Very important in the early game, these early stages, just kind of putting a little bit of damage on these Espeons, softening them up perhaps for Trash Avalanches, and just kind of putting pressure on until the Espeons can no longer attack each other.
One thing I'm surprised about is how these players have managed to not play their items. It's 1-0 in item counts, and they've been able to do exactly what they've wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, they're both players are, masters of the game. They're very, very experienced players. They know exactly what's going on.
Oh, but wait, I think we might see an Acid Spray from Xander.
He does have the Psychic Energy.
All right, that will be perfect knockout. 140 damage.
Yep, and there's also a Hex Maniac just got played by Xander, so Alex won't have access to any of his abilities for the next turn, which would be important for things like Tapu Lele.
Yeah, no Tapu Lele shenanigans here. And now we see an Acid Spray return knockout possibly from Alex.
The Acid Spray mirror match. So looks like, yeah, Xander's keeping track of Alex's items on the discard pile at 3, it looks like, which is enough for Garbodors to trade with each other. 4
unfortunately,
now.
the Float Stone from the Espeon and then the Ultra Ball now, he's like, well, okay, there's too many now. Now I have to get rid of everything and actually play my deck.
Yeah, once you've reached that limit, it's just sort of, or once you've reached that threshold, rather, it's just sort of, it doesn't actually matter. The main thing that's going wrong is already going wrong. Now I can just kind of do whatever I want.
Man, it's crazy how these weren't really the attacks you're thinking of when you think of these Espeon GX Garbodor decks, like Psybeam and Acid Spray.
Yeah, definitely not the most commonly used attack. Psybeam does get used, but it's only in the early game, right?
And we actually see a Field Blower from Alex putting Xander's first items in the discard.
His first 2. So actually, the Garbodors don't, on Alex's side, don't have enough to trade with the Garbodors on Xander's side. So that's what we're going to see the Acid Spray, actually. So
let's see if he can actually keep it up.
Yeah, he was forced to commit the double colorless to the Garbodor there and only take a single prize. So he's taking a knockout there, but this Garbodor carries a much heavier resource load than Xander's, and Xander is going to remain up a prize.
And Xander has the energy for that Trash Launch. Now he's debating. He has 2 Ultra Ball and a Sycamore in hand. If he wants to play any of it, it'll let Alex be able to take easy knockouts.
No, I actually like this play. Like, Xander's ahead. It's not by an absurdly large amount, but he's ahead by 2 prizes now. Alex is likely only taking 1 prize this turn if he can get there. I don't see a reason to put more items in your discard pile and feel your opponent's Trash Land. Just make them do the work for you, right?
Yeah, exactly. And now looking at Alex's hand, he has the energy, but remember, Trash Launch does not get the knockout. So he may be forced to Psybeam this turn?
Yeah, he can also, neither player has used their GX attack, so he could divide.
Well, he already attached.
Oh, he attached to the Garbodor, right?
Yeah.
So he's just going to have to Psybeam, or he could also just offer up the Garbodor and not take the knockout, just saying, all right, well, this is only 1 prize.
It seems rough.
And there's not even, there's no tools on it Xander's side either, so Alex can't actually, do any Field Blower shenanigans or anything.
Yeah, Alex is definitely on the back foot here, and he drew a hand full of items, too.
At that point, it's not actually that big of a deal for Alex to play items because it's already he's reached the point. He has 5 in there, so an Espeon GX is getting knocked out by Trash Land, so he's kind of free to play his items now, which is one advantage he has, is even though he's behind, he is kind of free to do more with his deck.
All right, he does go for the Garbotoxin Garbodor. Try to shut off Xander's ability to maybe try to draw more cards with Tapu Lele's Wonder Tag.
Yeah, Tapu Lele is the only ability in the deck that really matters. I mean, we have Energy Evolution, but at this stage
after like the first turn,
it's just cutting off Tapu Lele's. And we do see the Float Zone gets attached to turn on Garbotoxin.
All right, maybe he's hoping he goes for Confusion, maybe flips Tails, but I think I see a Guzma, 2 Guzmas in Xander's hand.
Yeah, Xander does have the Guzma, so this will not be all that big of an issue for him. The Confusion will just kind of not really matter.
Yeah, he'll be able to Guzma and either retreat or Psybeam if he wants to.
Xander taking a look through Alex's discard pile. He knows that the number of items is fine. He's keeping track of it, and he knows that it's enough. He just wants to take a look at the other resources that Alex has used and kind of see what other options he has.
All right, Guzma comes down. Xander's deciding what he wants to take up.
So Xander's at 3 prizes left, which means, yeah, he is taking the Garbodor. I think that makes the most sense. It's the main attacker that can be relevant here, and you want to get down to a time where you can take a knockout on a GX. Just put yourself down to 2 prizes first, and then go to 0.
So he retreats the Espeon GX, brings up Trash Launch again, will take a knockout, putting himself down to 2 cards, and he actually has Guzma for game in hand if Alex does nothing next turn.
Yeah, Xander has just kind of had a better board, better start this entire time. Basically for this entire match. And of course, we are going to see a Versus Seeker into an N here. Kind of the only option when you're in this position. Alex is down 3 prizes. A 1 GX or EX knockout seals the game for Xander. So he just kind of has to say, all right, I'm going to put you on as few cards as possible. I'm getting 5, you're getting 2. And this is how so many games are won, is these, Xander just doesn't draw anything off of the N.
Yeah, Xander definitely does have a few outs, though. Double colorless for a Psychic from Espeon GX, a Garbodor, and a Psychic.
Oh, he's not even looking. I love it. He just puts the cards face down.
Slow rolling everyone, including himself. And energy on the Trubbish. Psybeam will be able to take the knockout on Garbodor. He finally looked at his cards.
His cards were DCE Guzma.
Okay, so winning either way kind of thing.
Xander Pero takes game 1 over Alex Hill. 60-card mirror match. Xander basically had control of that game the entire time. Alex went first. The players had the exact same start. And then Xander's turn 2 onward were just strictly better than Alex's, basically. Was never behind, was never in fear of losing that game. And then had the double colorless at the end, off of the end to win.
Yeah, it definitely seemed one of the rare instances where going second is actually beneficial for you. He got that first Psybeam off, and then his next turn, he actually got 2 Garbodor from the end that Alex played.
Yeah, exactly. It's and another thing is, Xander was also very careful about the number of items he played, which Alex didn't. I don't think Alex made any mistakes. He just had to play. He had to play the Ultra Ball to get things.
Yeah.
Like, you have to do it sometimes, but that helped Xander. At the end of the game, he had most of his Versus Seekers, most of his powerful cards still in his deck, and it didn't actually end up mattering as he just naturally drew the DC and Guzma, but either one of those would have won in the game.
So as a rule of thumb for me, whenever I play, I always go first, but I wonder if Alex is thinking in the back of his mind, like, maybe he won that just because he went second.
The problem with that is that you still want to evolve. Like, you're still an evolution deck, I don't think that it's a... I do think a big part of the reason why Xander won that was like the attack did matter and just he had a better setup, but I still think just getting the Garbodors on the board can be important.
Yeah, and you were when Alex actually Wonder Tagged for the very first turn, he was eyeing that Hex Maniac. That would have been really big if he actually got the Hex Maniac, because it would shut off Energy Evolution. Wonder Tag would not be able to be played. That means Xander couldn't have bridged it.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where if he does that, he has to be very confident that he can get something going the next turn, right? Because you're basically putting yourself, like, you're putting Xander behind a turn when you do that, but you're also putting yourself behind a turn, because you're, instead of bridgeting, like, Xander can't bridge it, either can I, and then hopefully you get to bridge it first, but it kind of ends up being the same thing a lot of the time. Taking a look at Alex's prizes, 2 Ultra Ball, Guzma, both players run 2 Guzma in their deck. Oh, the Bridget was prize 2?
Yeah.
I actually missed that. Wow, that's huge. Looks like Tapu Lele starts for both players as well.
All right. Let's see Xander's prizes. Garbotoxin, but not much else.
All right, so depending on what's in Alex's hand, I think we're about to have a disappointed Alex Hill. Oh, he just has to play the N, actually. So he didn't have the out to the Bridget. It wouldn't have mattered anyways as it was prized, but you can see the kind of the disappointment, I think, in his body language, just kind of throwing down the N and having to hope he draws something.
Yeah, and he actually didn't attach because he had like 3 or 4 Psychic Energy in his hand. But he chose not to attach because if Xander gets a double colorless, that's more damage for him.
Not to mention that the Psychic Energy are just valuable for Garbodor too, and Espeon. Like,
yeah,
the type of
energy evolution if you get an EV.
Right. The type of lilies are kind of the worst target for the...
And speaking of, he did get an Eevee, but not much else in his hand.
Does he have a Psychic?
Yeah, he has a Psychic, but it's literally like, can't do anything else.
Right. So he's going to play the Eevee. He will attach to it, get the Espeon on the board, but it looks like that's going to be his entire turn. No Trubbish on the board, did not get the ideal setup or even remotely close to it.
Yeah, now he's looking, this is actually his first search, so he's looking to see what are my prizes. Checking, might see Bridget's prize, and might have a little bit of trouble getting like the 3 Garbodor in play throughout the match.
Yeah, I mean, having to, like we saw Alex stumble when he had the Trubbish on board and then just didn't evolve them for his second turn and had to wait till the third turn, and now he's going to have to wait till at least his third turn, and that's if he can find them next turn. They don't get knocked out, etc. So he's definitely on the back foot here. I didn't quite see what was in Xander's hand, but I did see an Ultra Ball, I think, which should turn on the play we've been talking about with Wonder Tag Bridget into all the Pokemon.
Yeah, his hand, though, not looking that good much otherwise. He might be forced to Ultra Ball for the Lele into something else other than Bridget.
Looks like he's going to go ahead and play the Eevee first. and energy attached, so you can use energy evolution. This lets him look through his deck before he commits to an Ultra Ball. This is a heads-up play. He's just kind of saying, all right, I have to actually use resources to use this Ultra Ball. I might as well get a free, basically, look through my deck that I'm going to do anyway. So good sequencing by Xander.
Yeah, that's one thing I love when players see like a Brooklet Hill in play, and it's like, I'll use Brooklet Hill, and then start searching their deck.
Really important on the early turns of the game to see what's prized and kind of make the rest of your decisions based on that. He's going to get an Espeon GX. It's the only thing he can do. The only valid psychic type evolution. So just gonna. It looks like he was actually taking notes, just making sure he knows exactly what's prized.
All right, so he actually has the Float Stone in hand, I believe.
Yeah, he does have a Float Stone. His 2 cards remaining after this are Float Stone and Field Blower.
So he can Float Stone his active and be the first to attack with Psybeam. It might be a little risky if Alex retreats and Psybeams into his own Espeon GX. You kind of put damage on somewhere where it doesn't really matter. But we do see the Wonder Tag come down and get the Professor Sycamore instead of Bridget, because remember, his hand had nothing going for it.
Yeah, we've talked about this a few times that we've covered these decks too, is that the Bridget's nice, but you can't Bridget when you have nothing else. Like, you can't just put yourself on no relevant cards for the next turn. And so he's
now
hoping,
there's 2 items in his discard too.
Yeah, and he does draw a Trubbish and an Eevee off of the...
it's like he Bridget anyway.
Yeah, it's like he built his own Bridget, basically. And now the consideration for Xander is whether he retreats and Psybeams here. He's just going to go ahead and pass.
I like that play.
Yeah, like you were saying, he exposes his Espeon GX that way. He also puts damage on a kind of irrelevant Pokemon. He'd much rather, as we saw in the first game, the small amounts of damage on the Espeon GX do matter when you're just a few damage short for something like Trashalanche. So it's I like that play as well. It's very smart.
All right, we see Double Colorless and a Choice Band come down on the active Tapu Lele and a Sycamore to draw 7 cards. 2 Trubbish. Who needs Bridget, right? We just draw.
Yeah, we're just drawing him off the top.
And his hand looks pretty good for next turn, too. There's a Sycamore, Ultra Ball. He still really hasn't played any items. I don't think he discarded any from his hand before.
No, I don't think so. And we're just seeing Tapu Lele Energy Drive here. Similar kind of thing. Alex is dedicating the Double Colorless and the Choice Band on the Tapu Lele, but he's just kind of saying, I have this Espeon GX on the bench. I'm going to attack you, going to put some pressure on you, and now you kind of have to deal with this in some way, or I'm just going to keep attacking you with it.
Exactly. Like I said before, it's one of the safe attackers in this matchup just because it's not weak to Psychic.
Yep, so after Alex showed that he could put pressure on, Xander was forced to attack, so he is exposing his Espeon GX there. He now has 2 of them, so it's not as big of a deal.
And Alex does have the option. He has an Ultra Ball in hand, could get another Espeon GX in play if he chooses to. And now it's the first item for Alex this game.
Yeah, it looks like he's eyeing up a Garbodor. Just getting the first Garbodor in play. Xander 1 item short. We didn't see... Did Xander actually ever play enough items for Trashalanche to get a knockout on a Garbodor? I don't think
Not really,
did.
yeah.
He was very, very strict about that.
So technically there's 3 in play with a Field Blower from Alex. And he has an Ultra Ball in hand, too.
Yes, in this game, certainly Xander will get to that point, whether it's from just having to play another item or getting Field Blowered.
And there's a Sycamore not opting to bench the Tapu Lele, trying to conserve his bench spots for Trubbishes and Eevee, which he drew 1 of each, by the way.
Yeah, so 3rd Trubbish hits the board. That can be important. We saw last game for Garbo Thompson.
Wow, this is huge. Choice Band on the Espeon GX. Psybeam is doing 120 damage.
Psybeam for 120.
When we see Xander has the dice ready, 120 damage. That Espeon GX is confused. Now let's see what Xander can put together here.
So I'd be kind of wary to play the Ultra Ball or even just the Sycamore, just because you don't want to have that threshold of 3 items.
5.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think you just kind of have to accept that you're going to get there at some point, mostly because you're already at 2 and you're nowhere near having enough resources to just win the game. Additionally, like we talked about a minute ago, Alex has field blowers, and both players, I assume, know each other's list, so they know that they play 2 copies of field blower, which is about the most you see anyone play. So it's kind of just like you are kind of doing the work for them, but as opposed to last game where Xander was completely in the driver's seat and didn't need to do anything, he still needs things now. He still needed to get that Garbodor up. The game is not won for him quite yet.
Yeah, and you actually see him not attach the Psychic Energy in hand, hoping for the double colorless, which he actually gets. He gets the double colorless and the choice band he needed for the knockout on the Espeon GX.
Yeah, so wow, so we're going to see a Psychic knockout. Again, Xander being the first to take prizes here, eliminating the Espeon GX on Alex's board. No EVs on Alex's board either. There are not enough items in play for a Garbodor to take a knockout on this Espeon here.
That was huge. But the rescue stretcher from Alex gets the Tapu Lele. He will be able to wonder tag 4 teammates, a card that is insane in this matchup.
Yep, like we were just talking about, whenever you're in a matchup where you're trading a lot like this, where each player is taking a prize or 2 prizes or whatever it is, usually ends up being 1 prize because it's really important for non-EXs are usually trading with each other. Teammates is just huge. We saw multiple times throughout this weekend, we've seen these non-EX focused decks just play teammates basically every turn.
And I believe he got Garbodor Field Blower. Field Blower adding 40 damage to Garbodor's attack. Now he's doing 100 damage, then ×2 for weakness for perfect knockout.
So that's actually the perfect number. Now he has 5, and Alex Hill right back in it.
But
2 prizes.
The one thing about all this, though, Alex now has 4 items in his discard. So now we go back to the Trash Lance War.
Yeah, and he also has a choice band on the board. So if it ever comes down to Espeons again, which I don't think Alex will allow it to, but he definitely can get that 5. But for now, we are just seeing this Garbodor versus Garbodor plan, which I don't know if Xander's going to be able to set up another one here, but Alex does have one already waiting in the wings.
Yeah, honestly, Alex would try to avoid knocking out Xander's Garbodors just because that Espeon GX is softened up, ready to get KO'd.
Yeah, 120
That Tapu
damage on
Lele
already.
is softened up, ready to get KO'd.
Yeah, the ideal rest of this game for Alex will just be Guzma on a GX, knock it out. Guzma on a GX, knock it out. We'll see if he can, after being end of 4 here, we'll see what he can put together.
It looks like an Ultra Ball at least, so he can Ultra Ball for Tapu Lele for Wonder Tag.
Looks like they're actually both on board.
Oh, there's
Alex,
only the
so
2.
Yeah.
That is right, okay.
There's a Trash Lance knockout, and now we are in this kind of Garbodor versus Garbodor time. Both players with 5 items in their discard pile, enough to knock out anything, enough to knock out the Espeons or the Garbodors.
Hey, this is still good. He gets another Trash Lance.
Yeah. I do know that Xander has an Ultra Ball in his hand, so he can find another Garbodor next turn. But Alex has this one that's attacking and then another one on the bench. So he's had a steady stream of them.
All right. There's not much else Alex can do other than attach and attack. Counting up his items, there's a lot in there. Number doesn't really matter right now. And there it is, Trash Lance. Both players are now down to 3 prizes apiece.
Yeah, it's interesting because, Alex is actually fine to knock out that Garbodor here because Xander still has to engage with his Garbodors, which means that Alex can do something like take 2 one-prize knockouts and then target down that Espeon. Because it's just, the Espeons aren't really going anywhere. Xander can't really do anything with them. Xander's forced to Trash Lance back.
All right. Garbodor evolving the active. Psychic Energy on the Garbodor.
No supporter from...
Their hands are kind
Xander,
of
it looks
similar
like.
where they just don't have much else, but they have Trash Lance. They have some energy.
Yeah, I do think the last card in Xander's hand, I believe, isn't another energy. Oh, no, it's a choice band. That's right. Just going to go ahead and slap that on the Garbodor. No cards in hand.
All coming down to the top of the deck at the very last second of this game.
Trash Lance. Yep.
Yeah, so there's a knockout. Alex quickly promotes. Does he have a way?
An Eevee.
Yeah, he just draws an Eevee. considers playing it. Double colorless goes on the Tapu Lele, just saying, you know what, I need to build up something else just in case this Garbodor doesn't go all the way.
And he's kind of weary of benching the Eevee just because it's an easy knockout. And we see a Versus Seeker from the prizes that Xander got.
If he has... So he hasn't drawn for, he hasn't promoted yet.
No,
He's trying to just do the Versus Seeker.
Yeah,
He's going to go ahead and take a look at Alex's discard pile. Interesting. So there are 6 items, it looks like, in Alex's discard pile, which means a Guzma plus energy Trash Avalanche will take the knockout on the Tapu Lele.
So he was deciding if I bring up someone else, I have the Guzma already, I just need the energy.
Right. It's like he drew a Parallel City for the turn. It's going to be too relevant, and so now he needs to kind of think. He doesn't have the energy in hand, so he needs to kind of think about what he wants the Versus Seeker back.
you have 3.
Yeah, this is definitely rough. If you have a read that your opponent has it in their hand, you go for the end, but you need this one Psychic Energy. You maybe have to Sycamore.
Yeah, it looks like Xander's going to go for the N. It's not an easy choice, though. You're putting... The problem is that with N, you're putting both players on very few cards. However,
yeah, but
Alex
if you don't
just
get
has
the Psychic
more...
Energy,
Yeah.
you don't have the attacker in play. Alex does.
Yeah, Alex has more on the board, which is the problem. Xander still decides, you know what, I need to put you on as few cards as possible and just hope.
This
that
is
I
a
can...
very risky play from Xander. He's
I don't know.
hoping it pays off for him.
I don't know how many Psychic Energies Xander's gone through. They do play 8 each.
They've been through quite a bit, at least like 5.
I thought I only needed the Guzma. I thought you had.
So if Xander misses here, it's going to be huge for Alex, just having the Garbodor kind of untouched, having the Tapu Lele in case anything goes wrong. Let's see,
All
2
right.
cards.
These are big 2 cards.
Ooh. I don't think that's a good sign. He just
Yeah,
takes a quick look at them and
I would think you would flip
has
it
to pass
down.
the turn.
Oh, no. All right, what does Alex have? A double colorless on the Tapu Lele.
he doesn't really need much.
Yeah, you just Trash Lance.
Like, yeah, he's going to attach the double colorless because why not? But it doesn't actually matter. I would also, he has a Floatstone, I think, is what he's considering attaching, which I think he should, just in case he gets end or something else goes wrong. There's already enough items in the discard pile.
Man, what unfortunate draws for Xander off that end. It looked like a Field Blower and a Hex Maniac. And it's a choice band now.
Yeah, nothing he can actually do. He does not, Alex doesn't quite have enough to take the knockout here, but Xander's going to have one more draw.
We see the very late Bridget come from Alex.
Yeah, he actually just doesn't take anything, just plays it again, fearing that something could possibly go wrong.
Yeah, even though the game is almost locked up, you want to make sure you do everything perfectly and everything to make your chances of winning better.
Yeah, you don't want, I mean, even when you're 99% to win, you still want to be sure that you're making
You want that
the right plays. Yeah. All right, Trash Avalanche, what's off the top for Xander? I don't think he has anything relevant in his hand. It'll all be based on the top of the deck. They're just checking. Oh, was there actually enough? Oh, maybe the counts must have been off.
Oh, you just played some, isn't it? If it's
When
not.
you knocked out, you took out. I was getting ready to tell you to change the numbers. It is
Oh, yeah, the
Yeah.
counts are actually off.
Oh,
That's just a
wow.
knockout. Okay. So kind of anticlimactic end to game 2 there, but Alexander Hill takes game 2 and ties up this match versus Xander Pero.
Wow, and they still have quite a bit of time left in the round. A little over 16 minutes.
Yeah, so this is the way that this matchup works is sort of very similar to other non-EX attacker matchups in that you're kind of constantly in a rebuilding phase. It's not quite as extreme as something like a Vespiquen or a Night March where you're just constantly trading back and forth, and the person that loses is the person that misses their energy or misses whatever it is.
Yeah, you're able to set up a little bit more before the trading happens.
Yeah, like this matchup it's very similar to that, but not exactly the same because of that Espeon GX. You kind of have you've seen both games, especially game 1. You saw just side beams back and forth, just putting a little bit of damage. Kind of both players having 2-3 turns to kind of get their stuff set up before that happens, and then you also have a little bit. You have more options than in those decks, in those Vespiquen or Night March decks. Let's say it's often just, well, I need to draw my Night March or my DC every turn, and you have other things you can do and still not just immediately lose in these matchups. So it's basically very similar to those kind of trades, but with a little bit more consistency on either side. You have a little bit more leeway.
Yeah, this was like, well, okay, I can only play this item, then I can't really play items for a while. Then I need to get Psychic Energies for this guy, but I need a double colorless for this guy. When can I play my Choice Band? When can I play my Float Stone? And then Field Blower just ruins everything.
Yeah, exactly. And with 15 minutes left in this round, we should have enough time, hopefully, to finish the game. Both players are going to be aware of the clock. Both of these games have kind of been pretty straightforward both times, I think. I think both of these players just kind of know how the matchup works, and it's kind of all about how your start is and then how the rebuilding phase goes for you. It looks like Alex is going to take a mulligan.
And, oh, the very last card is the EV for Xander, which is very good for him. I believe Espeon's probably the start you want for this matchup.
We're going to go ahead and take a look. Xander's prizes, nothing too important.
Flareon in there is good for him.
Yeah, it's the last prize, too. Do not need that. It's a good sign. And Alex taking his second.
Another mulligan
again. All right.
All right. So this may put another seed in his mind. Like, well, I can go for the Bridget if I have the option to, but maybe I still want to go for the end because 2 extra cards.
Yeah, it's interesting because the way that the mulligan is going to work is that it's going to give Xander kind of more insurance to just go ahead and do the Bridget play like we saw Alex not be able to last game. Nothing huge in Alex's prizes either, and we are off.
Yeah, if he does have access to that Tapu Lele, this hand is going to look amazing. There's the Energy Evolution. Espeon GX has been such a powerful card, kind of only brought into the competitive play with Garbodor. Kind of saw fringe play before it was released, or when it was released.
Yeah, Espeon's been either the first or second most popular partner with Garbodor, depending on when in the last 3 or 4 months it's been. I think a lot of players started on Drampa, although there was still some Espeon in the first few tournaments, and then kind of something that's kind of been a toss-up, I think. And I think at this tournament it's leaning Espeon, I think.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of the top players choosing to play Espeon GX just because it's a lot faster.
We are seeing that play that Alex considered on the first turn, which is just he Energy Evolution and then Hex Maniac, so now...
And wow, that is amazing because all he has is that Tapu Lele. He even needs to bench it just to not lose.
Yeah, he can't just risk losing immediately, so he's just going to actually bench Tapu Lele for no value and Energy Drive.
Wow, that Hex Maniac play was amazing, and he even drew a Bridget for the turn.
Yeah, so now he just has it all. He gets to Hex Maniac, shut Alex down for a turn, and then he just draws the Bridget and gets to kind of do everything that he wanted to do anyway.
Those 2 mulligans really backfiring on Alex right now.
And we can also see another Energy Evolution happen right now. So 2 Espeon GXs on the board for Xander, 3 Trubbish, and Alex's side not looking so great.
Yeah, he definitely needs help from the top of his deck. As of right now, he doesn't have anything. And of course, remember, Xander's doing this without any items in his discard. So Trash Lanch is a non-factor right now.
And we see an attachment to the Trubbish. We might just see an Acid Spray here. I don't think Alex has anything else in his hand. No,
there we go. Acid Spray. Got a heads. All right. It's something.
Yeah, I mean, it hits, but I don't know if it's going to be enough. I mean, Xander just immediately has a Psychic Energy to reload. And he also has supporters. I mean, he just has a normal hand that can play a functional game of Pokemon.
He could Guzma here, but he just has options. Yes, Sycamore.
I'm just going to go ahead and Sycamore. Draw 7. Would rather deal with the Trubbish than the Tapu Lele. Has 2 more Garbodors.
3 Trash Lanch Garbodor in play for Xander in a matchup where it's probably one of the most important attackers.
And there we go. Confusion.
I don't even think he'll get to it, though. Like, this Espeon might just take it all.
Ultra Ball was the top deck for Alex, so he's actually still in this now.
Okay.
He has to get rid of a Versus Seeker, unfortunately, which will put the second item in his discard pile, and is just a valuable card, obviously. So that's unfortunate, but he's happy to be actually in this game. He does not have a Bridget, though. Bridget is prized, so he's not going to be able to... he wanted to use on the first turn. Now that it's the third, I think, it's a little less good, but he's just going to...
Well, even so, his hand is not going anywhere, so he kind of needed a Sycamore,
sure, yeah.
And then...
He's going to look through his deck and determine what's prized. Let's see if Alex can crawl back into this. He does. It was unfortunate because he now has the 2 energy, or the 2 items in the discard pile, and the Floatstone is probably going to add a third pretty soon, which is just going to turn on all 3 of those Garboders on Xander's side.
That's insane. All right, Wonder Tag for the Professor Sycamore. Alex will finally be able to get something going. He has the Garboder. He has an energy he can attach if he wants to, but he might be looking for double colorless.
All right, here we go. 7 new cards.
That doesn't really look like much help.
I do think I saw a Trubbish. He has an Ultra Ball too, so you can start setting things up.
And he does have an energy. Maybe he can Acid Spray again, or maybe Ultra Ball for Eevee, Energy Evolution. He definitely wanted a double colorless to try and maybe Energy Drive instead.
A double colorless would have also allowed him to Acid Spray.
All right, there's the Field Blower adding 20 more damage to his attack. Now he'll be doing 80 with Trash Lance to the Espeon GX.
Ultra Ball.
And an Ultra Ball coming down. 4 items in Alex's discard.
Yeah, so Alex is trying to put something together here. That Ultra Ball was a timely top deck for him. Maybe a little bit too late, but keeping him in the game at least. 2 Trubbishes on the board now. Not looking so hot compared to Xander's 3 Garboders, but he is trying to put something together.
All right, there's a Trash Lance for 80, 160 on the Espeon GX. And let's see what Xander can prepare to do.
Unfortunately, it's just not enough. He's just going to be able to retreat here, and he can Trash a Lance. He has the energy in hand. And he's just going to force Alex to try to rebuild here. I mean, he doesn't need to play anything else. He's still at 2 items. He is not susceptible to a Field Blower or anything. Alex is really on the back foot here.
All right, he does have the N and the Garbodor.
Yeah, and I mean, N is interesting, right? Because you think of N as like, oh, when you're behind, N's really, really good. But it's just Xander's only taken 1 prize. Like,
yeah,
he's
not really behind
complete
in
control
prizes,
of this game, right?
But Xander's in complete control, like you said, and there's not really much he can do to try to come back.
I mean, don't get me wrong, you're still going to
least this
slam
turn,
the
yeah.
N, but it's interesting to note that Xander's just built up his board so well.
Without using much items, without using much of anything, really.
Yeah. I mean, this is exactly how we saw him play the first game as well. Just very, very conservative item usage, just never allowing Alex to trade with Trash Lanches.
And I actually see the Parallel City in his hand. He can play it with the blue side facing himself to get rid of the Espeon GX if he wants to.
And just eliminate that option entirely. Speaking of Espeon GX, Alex does add 1 to his side of the board.
Welcome to the party.
It's not exactly always where you want to be when you have
4 items in the discard and staring down a
when
Trash
you're
Lance
behind
Garbodor.
a little bit, but he is going to be able to confuse this Garbodor here.
Never mind, there's 5 items in the discard.
Yep, so now that
It's
Trash
all
Lance
on this
is
confusion.
fully on.
All right, let's see what Xander decides to do. He could just be set up enough to where he's like, okay, I can actually play some items now. I don't care.
Oh, he has Versus Seeker in his hand for Guzma. I didn't actually see the Versus Seeker. That's going to be big.
That's great. One thing Guzma has added so much to all these decks really is a way around this confusion from Espeon GX.
Yeah, and with that, Xander does add the 3rd item to his discard pile, but he doesn't actually... Alex actually has no Garbodor in play. And you see when Xander plays the Parallel City, getting rid of the Espeon, like you said, Alex just kind of puts his hands in his head. Man, how do I win now?
He's like, that was my one hope.
And Xander Pero down to 4 prizes remaining. Just 3 attackers fully set up. 1 more attacker just needing a Psychic Energy. He does not have enough items in the discard pile for Alex to take a knockout on an Espeon. He's just absolutely in control of this game.
Could you make a play, please?
Alex is surveying his options. Has the double colorless. One thing we haven't actually seen from either side is Divide GX. It's kind of been a non-factor. It's been all about Psybeam, Trash Lance, and Acid Spray.
I think it's just a 2 energy commitment there. Usually you're attacking with Espeons in the early game, and you don't really want to commit too many resources, or you just don't have the time because the Espeons just don't stay on the board long enough.
Yeah, they're very fragile.
And it looks like Alex is considering playing an N here, which is probably his best option. But again, it's kind of a similar thing where the prize differential isn't all that much, right? 4 cards is, not a great place to be, but it's not like he's ending him to 1 or anything. He's just so far behind on the board.
All right, Floatstone coming down possibly to any one of the 4 Pokemon. And there's the N. Alex will draw 6, Xander will draw 4, and we'll see if Alex can try to mount a comeback. A little over 4 minutes left to go in the round. He might also be thinking like, well, maybe I could just last until time.
Yeah, both of these players they're aware of time. They probably don't know the exact time, but with 4 minutes left in this round, this should finish, unless something strange happens.
And here we see Alex promoting the Espeon, looking for a Psybeam.
And just again, gonna confuse the Garbodor, put 60 damage on it.
Basically, please don't have Guzma, but there's a Floatstone.
And Alex already has enough items in his discard pile for Trash Lance to knock it out here again. Very few resources being used. Now,
Field Blower hitting both of the Floatstone.
Yeah, we see 2 more items to the discard pile. We saw Alex consider not playing that Floatstone for just that reason. It's not super relevant, but it does mean that a non-damaged Tapu Lele with 1 more item can get knocked out by a Trash Lance. So that can be important if Alex is forced to play another item.
And here we see a teammates probably getting a Garbodor and an Energy, if he even has one left.
Oh, he took Energy, something else, didn't quite see what it was. I'm sure it'll enter play. I don't think it was a Garbodor, though.
Yeah, he's really on the back foot here. 2 to 6 prizes. He's kind of gotten set it up, but the way Xander's been playing, limiting his items, he's really been controlling how Alex can actually take these prizes. The Parallel City getting rid of the Espeon GX.
Yeah, and it looks like Alex actually went back and he did take Garbodor Psychic. He originally had selected Psychic and N, but I think he kind of realized, like, oh, there's probably not going to be enough turns for me to actually use this N. Like, I've already used my Sporter this turn. I need to actually do something.
All right, and there's a double colorless coming down on Espeon GX.
And I think we're just going to see a... we're actually going to see a retreat here. I was going to say we're just going to see a Trash Lance, but we're just going to retreat here and saying, you know what, these Garbodors are actually more important than these Espeons. I would rather the Espeon be offered up for a prize because it doesn't actually matter to me.
Yeah, and the fact that Espeon isn't really threatened by these Tapu Lele GXs. They can't hit for weakness,
right.
So Espeon's kind of safe.
Yeah, exactly. And Alex playing the Bridget for nothing, just shuffling his deck.
And there's an Energy Drive. Granted, Xander is 10 damage short of knocking out the Tapu Lele on the bench with Divide GX. So he'll just go for Psychic for 120.
Go ahead and hit again, and what can Alex do? Can he do enough here? He's going to end, but I mean it's just on the board at this point. There's 2 Garbodors in the back. Just unless something changes, going to cause Alex to lose this game.
I guess we found out who is the master of this 60-card mirror. It looks like Xander Perot.
We're going to see what players are able to draw off of their prizes here. Even like a Tapu Cure wouldn't do it. Like, there's just damage on the active Lele. Like, it's just, I don't actually think Alex has outs here.
Yeah, like the only out would have been a 3rd Tapu Lele, and they don't play that.
Yep, and that's it.
There we go.
Xander
There's the
Perot
handshake.
Advances to 4-0-1 over Alex Hill. 60-card mirror, and I really like the way that Xander played that. He was very conservative the entire time, and it paid off. He's 4-0-1 here. We have 8